Hello, so I've been to Japan a few times and I'm not an expert, but I would like to share some quick tips, really quick, for people who are going to go to Japan or travel there, just to share some things that I actually wanted to hear before I went there for the first time. So the golden rule of all traveling is always to respect the local culture. In Japan, this is quite important, even more important than in any other parts of the world. So in Japan, people are so kind, so polite, and they really hate when somebody is rude. In Japan, definitely learn how to bow. I mean, this is simple, right? But bowing in Japan is the most universal and important language. If you don't know what to say in Japan, if you are unsure about anything, just bow and everything will be alright. Yeah, so bowing is really important. It's also important to learn a few Japanese phrases. I mean, just learn some things like thank you. I remember one Japanese that I met when I was in Japan. He told me that thank you, in his opinion, was the most important word like everywhere and in the whole world. So arigato gozaimasu. These are really like thank you very much, thank you. These are so important. Also, for example, in shops, in convenience stores, the assistant can ask you if you want the plastic bag. So fukuro, plastic bag. This is really important because otherwise you would be just stand there and maybe bow. Yeah, if you bow, you can't really do any mistake. I remember when I spoke Japanese to some local people. Every time they were so shocked, they were so really happy, so genuinely, overjoyed that somebody tries to speak their language. And when you're tourists, they really can appreciate it. Also, remember that smoking is prohibited in many places in Japan. Another thing is learn how to use chopsticks. Chopsticks are, for eating food. And there are some things that you should not do with chopsticks, like pointing at someone or maybe sticking them like vertically into the food. This is considered very rude. Also, blowing one's nose in public is also considered very rude. Also, behaving very loudly. For example, speaking loud in train, in bus. Japanese don't really like this. So pay attention and really study the cultural appropriation of the things that you are about to do in Japan. And another important thing, smile. Smile with the bow is the most important thing in Japan. Japanese people are extremely kind. When we were hitchhiking with my friend, there was this guy who took us 150 kilometers far away from his own destination, which means he had to go in the middle of the night the same way back. So he rode 300 kilometers just because of us. This is incredible. So please be kind as well in Japan. You will definitely visit some Shinto shrines. It's really amazing and very cool if you learn how to pray there. Every Japanese will be so excited and overjoyed seeing you praying there. You don't have to worry, even if you do a mistake. I remember Japanese people looking at us, smiling, and they were really happy and even asking, like, how do you know how to pray in our shrines? So definitely take a look at the tutorial and learn how to pray there. The most important thing is, when you enter the shrine, there's the torii gate. You need to bow there. Then don't go in the center of the road. To go to the side, because the center is for the gods. Then if you come to the purification place, there's water always flowing. You take the dipper, clean your left hand, your right hand, then your mouth with your left hand, and then the dipper itself. Then you go to the main shrine, you go to the place of worship, then you toss a coin, you bow 2 times, clap 2 times, pray in silence, and then deeply bow and leave. Really amazing, really great experience, and then you feel like this Japanese atmosphere there. Also, expect Japanese not to speak English very well sometimes. I remember one lady who tried to speak English to me. Actually, at first I didn't even recognize it was English. I'm really sorry, but she tried so hard. But I understood her more Japanese than English. So this was really weird, because sometimes their pronunciation is quite hard to understand. So definitely don't expect, maybe you can take a translator just in case into your phone. As I said, we were hitchhiking and urban camping with my friend when I went to Japan for the first time. Well, it's actually quite okay. The drivers always stopped, and even if they couldn't take us to our destination, they gave us some gifts or bought us food. Really kind, really amazing. If you want to hitchhike in Japan, then it's really good to take a sign, like a cardboard or something, and write the kanji or hiragana, or the Japanese words for the destination, the name of the city, or maybe the direction or something like that. Because Japanese will maybe be afraid if you write this in English, or if you just wave at them. Maybe they might be afraid that they wouldn't understand you. So it's good to take a sign in Japanese, actually. Maybe if you are scared of animals, sometimes in the forest you might be attacked by a bear. There are also these tanuki animals. They are quite thefts. They can steal some things from the camp or from your tent or something like that. Also, you should be afraid a little bit of the Japanese giant Asian hornets, because they are quite dangerous. But in general, Japan is pretty safe. If you can, maybe avoid visiting Japan in summer. One of the reasons is that it's the rains season, and you don't really want to go, like spend your whole vacation raining, right? And also the humidity is pretty high. Also combined with the high temperatures, it might be actually quite dangerous even for your health. When you walk the streets in Japan, be careful, because the Japanese ride bikes a lot. And they don't use any rings or any, alarms. They don't even shout at you. So when you go down the street, always look around and go by the side, because you might get hit by a bike. If you think of bringing a lot of food to Japan, don't do that. Because, there's a lot of so-called convenience stores in Japanese konbini, like 7-Eleven, Lawson, Family Mart, and they are everywhere in Japan. So if you want to buy food, you can almost everywhere buy it. And with drinks, with something to drink, it's even better, because if you don't have these stores there, then you have the vending machines literally everywhere. I saw that in the middle of the fields there was this vending machine, so yeah, they're everywhere. You might try some Japanese restaurants, but in many supermarkets you can buy like almost finished meals, like some fried meat or some rice balls, so-called onigiri, very delicious. I really recommend that. Or sushi, or a lot of food. So because Japanese are quite used to eat, I think, in haste, maybe some businessmen or so on. So therefore you have a lot of options to eat even in supermarkets, and so you can combine it with restaurants. But so don't be afraid about food in Japan. Talking about these facilities, toilets, Japanese toilets, you've definitely heard the legends about Japanese toilets. They are all true. The Japanese toilets are something unreal. The best thing is they're everywhere. Almost, in the cities, you can find a lot of public toilets for free. And even if you are thirsty or something like that, the water in Japan is 100% potable, safe to drink, so you can even take the water from the toilet and drink it. I mean, tapped water, of course, not from the toilet itself, but you know what I mean. Also, make sure to have some cash with you. I mean, in every convenience store, you can pay by card. There are also ATMs in convenience stores. They are pretty safe, so you can use them. But actually, it happened to me that in some convenience stores, I just couldn't use my European credit card. I mean, I don't know why, it just didn't work. And then I tried another one, and then it worked. So you always should carry some cash. There are also some places, for example, in some shrines and so on, or temples, where you can't pay by card. Regarding fees, usually in museums or some monuments like castles, you pay some entrance. Then this is maybe the most expensive. Then there are some temples, Buddhist temples, where you also pay some fee, but it's usually less than in museums and so on. And then there are Shinto shrines, which are usually for free. But don't worry. The fees, the money you pay for the entrance is usually really low compared to, for example, European monuments and famous sites. Now, traveling in Japan, well, you can use of course, Shinkansen trains or some local trains. You've probably heard of JR Pass. This is a really amazing thing. I used it and I was quite satisfied. You can buy it on the official website, and then you can, or then in Shinkansen there are some free seats and some reserved seats. It's always better to get a reservation because the free seats might be, you know, all full. So when you do the reservations, you usually need to actually pick it up physically in the green machine, where the ticket machine. But don't worry, the ticket machine, you can always select English language and it's quite straightforward. So don't be afraid, it's really simple to use. If you have problems with that, you can always go to the counter. There's usually some assistant who will help you. If you have your reservations on the official JR Pass site, then you can change the reservations before you actually pick them up physically in the machine. Online, you can change them online. And if you have pick them already, if you have printed them, then you need to change them at the counter. You can't change them online anymore. Sometimes the JR Pass might be too expensive for you, so you can use some online calculators to actually make sure it's worth for you. If not, you can use some other local passes from other companies, so look for them too. For example, I once used, when I went to Koyasan, I used a special ticket that actually was the direct ticket to Koyasan with some discounts at the place, like entrance fees or so on. So always look for some passes and extra special tickets. You might be lucky there. To use public transport, it's the best thing. You can of course buy some tickets every day or so on, but you can also get the so-called IC card, like ICOCA card, SUICA card. These cards you just charge with money, and then you can travel everywhere, you know, in most buses and public transport, like underground or even in trains. So this is an amazing thing. Look for IC cards. You can pay with them also in convenience stores or in the vending machine. Also, if you take Shinkansen, if you go from Kyoto to Tokyo or vice versa, then definitely look from the window, because there's high chance that you will see Mount Fuji. For timetables and train schedule, you can always check Google Maps, they are quite accurate. If you like buses, you can take some overnight bus or something like that. I used the Wheeler bus once or a few times, and it was one of the most luxurious buses that I ever rode. An interesting tip is actually, when you go to Japan, when you arrive, you need to fill the immigration card, and the pen is always broken and so on. So the best thing to avoid all the problems is to do it online. This is possible. You can just fill everything at home prior to your arrival to Japan, and then just you get a QR code that you show at the immigrations. Don't worry in shops, because all the prices are written in Arabic literals, so it should be readable to you. If you want some souvenirs and gifts, many people recommend going to so-called Don Quixote. It's really a great shop with literally everything. And if you are there, if you're a tourist, then use the tax-free counter. One limitation of that is that if you buy something for tax-free, you shouldn't use it while being in Japan, so just after you leave. Also in konbini, you might notice that there is a coffee machine. I mean, in my country, I'm used to, in coffee machines, when I don't drink coffee, but when somebody buys a coffee, it's always with a cup. The cup just falls there and then it starts pouring into it. In Japan, be careful. I had this faux pas when my mom wanted coffee, so I went to the coffee machine and just, I don't know, I ordered the coffee, and the coffee started pouring down the drain, because I forgot, actually, in Japan, you need to go to the counter and buy the cup, like, separately. Regarding food, it's considered quite rude to actually eat while walking in public in Japan. You can sit down on some bench or something like that, but Japanese don't really like when somebody just starts, eating while walking and being loud with it, and just try to be quite discreet in Japan, and you're really polite and quiet. Sometimes you might notice that when you want to order or do a reservation in hotel in Japan, that there's not much hotels online, for example. Why is that? Well, sometimes you might be used to ordering a hotel like year before your trip. In Japan, many of the hotels actually open their reservations half a year before the actual date that you want to reserve. So sometimes just wait, because 6 months before your date, it might open. A lot of new options might appear. Regarding hotels, the rooms are pretty small, so be prepared for that. A lot of people come to Tokyo, then they wander there and they are like, oh, this is Japan. But you know, personally, to me, Tokyo was probably the least interesting place from all the places that I visited in Japan. I would definitely recommend Kyoto. There's never enough time in Kyoto. I've been like, once I was in Kyoto just for the whole week and it was still not enough. And in Kyoto, don't just go to the famous places, because Kyoto is really big, there's a lot of places. For example, in Arashiyama there is this bamboo forest full of people, crowded. But not much people know that there is also this place called Rakusai bamboo forest, which is a bit further away, but it's almost like nobody walks there. It's really authentic, no tourists there, very nice place. If you want to visit a bit of nature, go to Kurama Mountain. There's a really nice shrine and a nice hike. One of the hidden gems in Kyoto is the Oiwa abandoned shrine, and quite nearby are the Momoyama castles and Meiji Mausoleum, which is a very peaceful place. Yoshidayama, Kenkun Shrine, Komyo Inn, many places that are not the top attractions but are very nice. So definitely take some time, look at some hidden gems in Kyoto and try to visit them as well. Aside from Tokyo and Kyoto, you can visit Himeji, really beautiful castle. There's also this Shosha Mountain. It was the place where The Last Samurai, the famous movie, was shot. Maybe my top place is Koyasan. Really very unique atmosphere. It's a temple mountain. There is the grave of Kobo Daishi, very important person in Japanese Buddhism. And there are many amazing places, especially the graveyard, which feels like totally like from Ghibli movies, like another world. So definitely Koyasan is something really unique. I definitely recommend that. Also, another famous destination is Nara, with all the temples and shrines and the sacred deer. Also, you can find the deer in Hiroshima at the Itsukushima Shrine, Miyajima Island. There's the Tori, the red gate in the water. Very nice place as well. If you want to see some typical Japanese villages, then definitely visit Shirakawa. Very nice place, very lovely. Matsumoto, Nagoya, Hakone. Also Ise Shrine, very interesting and very important place in Japanese Shinto. If you are into mountains, then go to Kamikochi, very beautiful valley, with some huge mountains around. If you're a lot into hiking, then you can go the sacred Kumano Kodo Trail. If you are in Tokyo, then definitely visit Kamakura, another place quite near. It's just a few minutes in the train. Another one is Nikko, the Tokugawa Shrine. Very amazing place, very authentic. It's the grave of Tokugawa Ieyasu, the founder of the Tokugawa shogunate. And you can also try Shikoku or Kyushu or other islands of Japan. So this was just a 101, visiting Japan. I wanted to make this quick so you can look for further information on the internet. I also wrote some articles, you can check them down below in the description. I also made some vlogs about visiting Japan. So if you go to Japan, good luck, enjoy. It's an amazing country. It's been my dream visiting Japan for a long time, and when I fulfilled it, I was quite emotional, and Japan is amazing. If I had to say just one thing from all the things that I said, be polite. Be polite, bow. This is the most important thing, because, etiquette and politeness in Japan is everything. And when you just speak to the locals, when you show them your good intentions, they will open to you, and then you can actually feel Japan and Japanese people like more deeply, and discover the country like more into depth. So see you next time.